and I being on
Dubai soil.
Start again. Brenda and I are based in the UAE. So yeah, we are we represent as a community interest company that is founded in the UK, in London. Right, do you think time-wise, Brenda, shall we?
Yeah, I think it's time to bash on. So we're just so that we get it in on time.
Fantastic. So if everyone can put themselves on mute, that would be fantastic. Like I said, we are recording, and welcome to our webinar this afternoon in the UAE. Good morning in the US, and I think mid-morning in Europe. Legacy is one of our campaigns under Purposeful Innovators, where we are working to change how people work and how corporations work, bringing in the ethics of that I've learned personally through coaching. We've done a lot of research into how we can flip the traditional models that really don't work anymore and bring humanity into the way organizations and entities and people really treat each other, primarily in the corporate environment, and see how we can work with our communities through collaborations to bring what we call prosperity for all. This webinar, we talk about business leadership. And the connection between one's individual behavior, one leader's behavior, and how that behavior does translate and transfer down to the bottom line with regards to how values cascade. Legacy, as I said, is a campaign under Purposeful Innovators. We are making our sustainability impact. When we talk about sustainability, we're talking about social, economical, and environmental sustainability. As Purposeful Innovators, we are a worldwide membership of collaborators that are working independently, collectively, to change the way the world works. As we say, we want to revolutionize that through learning, collaboration, and shared knowledge. Legacy is our campaign that talks about the money side of things, and we believe that communities can learn how to manage money in a way that can enable them to become more sustainable. Through our work, we look at individual wealth management, and we've developed lessons and campaigns where we deliver wealth management education into schools. A lot of the work that we do are with private schools, and it's enrichment learning through extracurricular activities and things like tutoring clubs, where there's a lot more opportunity and a lot more receptivity to teaching children as young as 5 the foundations of individual wealth management. We also teach through activities and initiatives like junior MBAs, and some of the private schools in the UAE are really pioneering with how young they start entrepreneurship. We're teaching corporate wealth and corporate investment managing, again, from that very young age, and supporting SMEs and startups to understand how they can manage their business as if it was a product, rather than starting up a business for the sake of earning a salary, which is a very different mentality and mind shift. And we're also working on a community level with economic impact, helping communities through NGOs and collaborations with NGOs where communities are very vulnerable, helping them understand and learn how to bring in wealth into their community to enable them to become more sustainable, and how to resist a lot of exploitation that unfortunately happens with corporations and big brands across the different parts of the world. We're currently working on a project that is collaborating different orphanages around the world. Our campaign's called Thriving Roots. It's actually not on the website yet. We're still working on the microsite. But one of the things there is actually helping the worst off kids globally, help them become more sustainable and understand the essences of wealth management and understanding how to manage money as they grow up. A lot of the work we do in those areas are actually focusing on women and female children, because those are the areas that are mostly affected by the lack of education around money. While Purposeful Innovators, we set Purposeful Innovators up a year and a half ago, roughly a year and a half ago. Brenda and I have been the founders of Purposeful Innovators. Our goal is, like I said, collaboration. So we work across the 17 UN global goals that drive, again, it's the sustainability of profit, people, planet. My background's in marketing and innovation, and for me, I'm a strategist. So at one point, it was a case of if we're going to have a strategy, this needs to be the strategy that we collectively take seriously as a global business community. There shouldn't be a CSR. All marketing should be grounded in or founded in CSR initiatives for the sake of our community. And we have taken that through our NGO work, and off the back of that, we are licensed as a marketing consultancy in the UAE, bringing the neuroscience of communities into commercial impact. Brenda, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. My name is Brenda Ingram. As you can probably tell, I am from Scotland with my accent. I've been working with Rania for 18 months, as we said, and we are working on various projects at the moment. My background was police in Scotland, which was for training purposes, but I have since diversified into project management and hence working on projects with Rania so that we can have all of the projects that we're working on in the on the website for everyone to participate in if required.
Fantastic. Elizabeth did prompt me, and I'm not sure if I said it. So my name is Rania Laing. I'm actually the president of the ICF UAE chapter. My term finishes at the end of this year, as well as the founder of Purposeful Innovators and the CEO of Your Neurocoach, which is our marketing element. I'm an executive coach, and my background is marketing, innovating, and art. I've got a fine art degree. So a lot of what we do is very creative, and what we found is when we're working with innovators, we're able to really reinvent the way things are. Through our research that we've done researching value and the transfer of value using different fields of things like positive psychology, sociology, cybernetics, marketing, neuroscience. We found that when you cross fields, you can get a really extensive and comprehensive view of the commonalities between those fields. Everything that we have researched, we've applied, and we've learned from what we've been doing. And sustainability, essentially now in our system, sustainability comes back to knowing the impact that you want to be creating, and that impact is able to be delivered again and again, and that's what creates sustainability. In society, it's about achieving balance. So with regards to legacy as a campaign, these 9 UN development goals are the ones that we are delivering through legacy as one of our campaigns. If you can, thank you. Right, So in this presentation, we're talking primarily about how behaviour translates into money, understanding the debt and profit cycles that are rooted in behavioural patterns. Leaders are really important because leaders provide role modelling, behaviours that in your mirror neurons, whether you like it or not, some part of your unconscious is copying that behaviour that you see. So absolutely vital for role model behaviour within organisations and within our communities. When I refer to organisations, in my brain, I've always had this belief that working organisations, companies are literally, from a company point of view, that's employees are their first market. It's your first community. Having spent my whole life in organizations and blue chip companies, it becomes your social group. You're living and breathing the culture that's there. It's a third culture from where you're from or where you live outside your social groups. And often organizations don't take that into account with how they treat, when they look at the rights that they give their employees. So I'm quite passionate about that. And Brandy, you'll have to stop me when I get on my high horse.
Yeah. Moving on.
I went into coaching it was around 6 years ago. I wanted to investigate how come I use my imagination and come up with solutions the whole time and things that hadn't happened before. And I was in a really large organization here where there was 88,000 people, employees that worked for this large retail group. And my colleagues on the senior leadership team were always really worried that I wouldn't be able to come up with another idea for the next season. So I started off in coaching just to investigate how come I'm the one with the ideas. And that ended up, I had my daughter, I was made redundant when I had my daughter, I was on maternity leave, didn't go back there. And over time, I was actually, when I joined that organization, it was for cultural change. And that's where I got really interested in how organizations can change to the positive. And unfortunately, after I was made redundant, so were the rest of the senior leadership team. And over time, that organization no longer exists. So we dedicated a lot of time. I was there for 5 years. We did dedicate a lot of time to this cultural shift. And then for the sake of money, pretty much everything that we had built up successfully no longer was valid anymore as there was change in leadership. So I learned a lot during that experience. With coaching, what I found personally for me was that coaching provided me with a method by which I can treat others in a way that I was not responsible for them. And that for me was a huge breathing space with the fact that I wanted to help them, but being able to help them and what it was is just facilitating their thinking. I was pretty hooked on that, and I wanted to look into how that creates social value, and it does. It provides us with an excellent example. As coaches, we know the value of respecting our clients. So and we investigated this, how does it look for an organization or projects that are implemented with an organization to understand those aspects of coaching and to develop projects that are actually aligned with their communities and their markets? Again, very interchangeable when you look at a community that has a shared value. In marketing, you're looking at your market. Your market is segmented by shared values and shared interests. So coaching is a wonderful, wonderful way that we can actually bring a better method and better practices in how we develop strategic projects. And finally, we're looking at how the third part is how we can use social value to create a prosperous society. And then prosperous, it means prosperous for all. That means sustainability. So everything connects in with another. So the debt profit cycles are more the functional aspects of it. The coaching impact is more the strategic. And then finally, the social value is more about what the overall impact is on our society. So looking at the debt profit cycles, debt profit, so I have got some background in NLP, and the language, as we developed the methods that we work by, the language just indicates everything. When we say someone was indebted to them or they owe them, behavioural values are entrenched in our language and in the way that we see the world around us. And that's really interesting when you're looking at how behaviours within an organisation. Often organisations, they'll say, we've got our values, these are our values, they'll put them on the wall and that's it. And actually the value of that organisation isn't seen within the way they actually operate. So taking values out of the lip service aspect of it, we've developed a 25 level criteria that relates to, incorporates Maslow's hierarchy of needs with spiral dynamics, which is the advancement of society. And it's something that can be transferred and applied to any community in any market, that gives a hierarchy of different behaviors with an associated algorithm of a point structure that indicates its value within a community based on how positive the impact is of that individual criteria, skill or competence in the community. Hopefully that makes sense. So starting with impact, this again is the flipped model. We call a level 5 impact because it's a far greater impact than level 1. It aligns with the neuroscience. It also aligns with the work of Jim Collins in Good to Great, and Rogers' innovation model, as well as Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So again, like I said at the beginning, you start looking at successful models across different fields. You see the same quality that comes through. Those models that have stood the test of time are useful and beneficial because they achieve the impact criteria that they do. So flipping those models for the biggest impact possible and starting strategies from there, we found that any business that values its people within the business, that's how it has value within the community, because it's the same thread of value. In our model, we look at behavior, we transfer behavior to a brand or product, and that's transferred. So you can think of it as 3 different value units. That then gets transferred into a monetary value, which differentiates Nike from an unbranded sportswear company, or Apple from Nokia at the moment in the market. Preceding intention. So in coaching, we talk about goals. In business, we talk about goals and KPIs. Preceding that is intention. Intention is the starting point that enables you to question your behavior that is to follow. And we found that these 3 steps, if you're starting off with the impact that you want to make, and take the first step is, what is your intention to make that impact? When your intention is for the collective and for the community, your impact is for the community, and that's a higher impact than starting off with wanting to sell a product. And it's a completely different mindset to building strategies based on that. That also enables you to have give attention to what exists and what is there to create the impact, rather than a lot of the negative criticism that tends to happen in meetings and within businesses of the risk factors. Through our work with your neurocoach, we set up to be dedicated to prove that this is a commercial method of achieving value in a market and leading markets. And a lot of it is what the big brands do. Our business is dedicated to driving humanity. And what we do is measure our positive results and our learnings every single step of the way. Every time we've got a new situation, it's a case of we have triggered a change. We're very conscious of what the change is, and we give attention to the quality of that feedback or feed forward with regards to, we know very, very carefully what has happened and what the results are, we take the positive from that and we give attention to the positive. And it's the same with people that we work with. We work with our clients in a way that when you're bringing change management, when you think about change management for the sake of changing, it becomes a really huge hurdle to undertake. But when you think about change management to looking at the positive and doing more of the positive, measuring the positive, then it starts becoming a lot easier and people feel recognized and feel valued for the positive of what they do. Over time, that actually builds up to be quite revolutionary. And that's why we call, within our system, it's the learning revolution, because you're learning and setting your results on things that are already there, not the things that are not there. And your actions, step 3, become very clear, because as long as you're building your actions up within a business, your actions or your marketing strategies, your evaluations, the things that you look to be driving outcomes from are your actions within the business. And focusing on positive actions that is based on evidence is far better than trying to avoid the avoidance actions that are based on what tends to be hearsay, past experiences, and other personal accounts of what might potentially happen. And when we're looking at coming out of a pandemic situation, it's actually a blank slate that we've got in the market at the moment, because of so much disruption that has already taken place. It's very difficult to predict what your customer or your market is going to react to, due to the complexities that have taken place commercially with all businesses. And then, the second part of that is staying on track. It's really easy. The biggest challenge we find with clients is keeping them on the flip model. Most people are conditioned to look from where they are now and try to work out where to get to where they want to be doing. But when you're always flipping the model, it's a case of actually just keeping revolving the learning, rather than getting sucked into other political discussions that take place in an organization. And it's that just continuous monitoring and documenting learning, sharing the learning, and building the business on the actual learnings that can be measured and documented and explained within the business. Now, that's easier said than done. However, it's a practice, and it starts creating micro changes that over time can create quite macro, I want to say bonuses. They are bonuses within an organization. The second topic today is about the learning revolution. Coaching is, in my experience, one of the most impactful ways that we can drive social value. And it's an enabler for an organization to be learning, because from coaches will know, from a coach's point of view, you can't predict a client's thought process. Your brain is as unique as your fingerprints. From a brain-based coaching point of view, it's really having that trust in the client's ability to find their way. And what coaching does, when you bring in coaching into organizational planning and strategies, it's about really, really understanding the depth of events that have taken place. Having the full comprehension enables cycles to build up on velocity. Jim Collins in Good to Great calls it the flywheel effect. And it really does happen, because there isn't doing things a second time. It's ensuring that the building blocks are as solid and robust as possible, and incremental decisions are made that are minute decisions, but over time they do grow quite substantially, and at one point it becomes exponential growth. From a coaching point of view, we know that coaching helps deliver generative thinking. With generative thinking and coming out of a situation that is a difficult situation, the generative thinking is what drives innovation in organizations. And the value of that is again that positive behaviors of what's there, and leveraging best practice and knowledge within an organization, leveraging resources that already exist. And that comes from the experience of the teams that are there, and doing things in new ways, generating new ideas rather than focusing on risk, which is more the debt angle to looking at trying to avoid going into more debt rather than regenerating and generating new thinking. And over time, when looking at from the impact level the whole time, we work through these revolutions, it's forever augmenting, because each time there's a revolving cycle and it moves forward. We know, using our model, we know that it's for the benefit of the community. It's always the benefit of the collective. So gaining ground rather than competing, gaining ground through this ever increasing development of social value and learning how to do that starts encouraging attraction with an organization that is creating newness within the company's value, within the company's market, and uniqueness within the proposition of the business. Brenda, you're on mute.
Yes, I am. I'm not now. I coughed, I beg your pardon.
Is there anything you'd like to add at this point with regards to, because I know you explain things in a different way to me, and I think, with what I've been saying, what would you like to add that can sort of help explain or summarize so far?
Summarizing so far, all right. Well, I think, and let me make it clear, I'm not a coach, so the point of making things different in terms of understanding comes from a non-coaching point of view. But certainly the circles, I found that a great education for me, because I don't come from marketing background, I don't come from coaching background. So it's one of those things that once you learn the 5-level impact, as Rania said, that we work on 5 levels, so level 5 being the most important. So if you think of it as the inverted triangle, then you're always aiming for the biggest impact that comes from that level 5. And that, for me, having recently done a university degree, aligns with Maslow's hierarchy of needs and so on, which surprisingly I had heard of previously, but never put any impact on that type of analogy. So for me, it's where everything kind of meets together, where it all knits together, and where it all directs itself to the highest impact we can make, if that makes sense.
Thank you very much. It does to me.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, you and I, we can talk the same language, but even though I don't do marketing or coaching, I've learned so much over the last year and a half from this model, and the impact of some of the projects we're working on. It really hits each of these levels, and it makes you understand that life just needs to be sustainable these days, because there is no other way around it.
And that's right. With the sustainability crisis that we have, with the prosperity crisis we have, the poverty crisis that has been accentuated by the pandemic, we need all businesses to become prosperous as fast as possible. And that's not talking from as a consultant point of view, it's talking from a human point of view, that we are in this together. And one of the things that we all are accountable for, I'm going to start getting on my high horse, I need to step down, is the fact that the work that Brenda and I have been doing, we have taken models that have been around since the 60s and 70s. We haven't done anything new or anything special. We've just unpacked them with the knowledge that I have of coaching as a brain-based coach, but also as a marketeer, and discovered there's commonalities between them. And this is something that we need to do in society. We need to take care of every aspect of society. We need to understand what social impact is. We happen to have come up with something that we find workable, but there's plenty of models out there, and there's other people that are doing exactly the same thing. So unless we start learning then to collaborate, collaboration enables us to deliver that impact excellence, which is the key to everything that we want to be doing collectively as a global society. It was absolutely, we are so excited that we have people from all over the world joining us today, because it means that we have an ability to reach different countries, connect with different people that share this value, and those that are still on the webinar, the fact that you're still listening to us talking about this means that there's hopefully we're resonating with you to start collaborating with people, expanding each other, understanding that every single perspective and every single brain in the world is right. Their model of the world is correct. So how do we then start collaborating on values and delivering the social impact that is needed so that we can eradicate poverty, we can equalize gender differences, we can ensure that we're protecting our climate, we're protecting our oceans. Unless we start collaborating, and that is every segment of every market, every part of every community, we won't ever achieve the sustainability that we should be leaving as a legacy for our children. So we need to teach our children how to manage their money. Without money, they can't manage other people. Within the model, when we look at profit, planet, people, profit is always that first, is that operational step. If you don't know how to manage your personal wealth, if you don't know how to manage your business, then you can't hire people, you can't support other people financially either. You're not going to be in a position to be wanting to invest in environmental or green causes if you can't look after yourself. So it's always the first step for us when we're looking at, which is why we're calling it legacy. It's also the step that we leave behind, is that importance of understanding that by delivering the social impact, we can deliver a prosperous society for all, and that means no one suffers. From an organizational point of view, having full transparency with your customer, telling them what you're learning as an organizational learning, building your marketing to be based around the community initiatives and the support towards community. Organizations, we have found, have got such a huge amount of resources that have been untapped, unused during this pandemic. And we're finding that parts of the community suffer while organizations lay off people and they're not using the resources they have to support the community. There shouldn't be a difference between CSR and marketing. All organizations, we believe, should be aligned with CSR, should be delivering an impact on their communities, as well as their employees who are their first in community. And then with transparency, that becomes their marketing, and that's how they can build customer trust. Bringing that through their communication transparently, and through that be building and developing ambassadors naturally. That's like the default, the aftermath, if you like, of doing the right thing, rather than appearing to do the right thing, which is where we still are in the world with especially some of the larger, more traditional organizations, is you have a PR department to manage your risk. We're living in the world of media. You can't manage risk in that way. The media industry in itself is something that's completely uncontrollable. But what you can do is manage your own behavior and be bringing positive behavior that end up with positive actions, reactions, and build up customer loyalty, employee loyalty in that way. That means, well, our goal for Innovators is to make ourselves redundant we shouldn't need an NGO that is going out teaching sustainability for corporations and NGOs. This should be within the fabric of our education and our society. What we do have and what we do understand is actually that when you can measure something and document it, and the documentation is really important, it actually enables businesses to be evaluated and investable based on what they document and their learnings and their knowledge that has accumulated. So it's really this understanding of social impact becomes an investment enabler for those businesses that are dedicated to delivering it. It gives market alignment without having to purposely go out and strive for it or do the research that's, the traditional marketing research where you have your quantitative, qualitative focus groups. Having that alignment and transparency with customers enables you to get that feedback automatically. Discussions are had automatically. We're in an age of media where we can talk to customers directly, and very few businesses do. And again, it's that through that innovation precision, the continuous learning cycles enables us with an understanding of the social value and social impact to achieve continuous learning and innovation that delivers an impact that is healthy for societies. Couple of statistics here. 92% of businesses globally have been hurt by the pandemic. And most of them have been SMEs that haven't had that solid foundation in understanding business strategies. 4 out of 10 SMEs are unserved or underserved by banking credit, so they don't have access to funds to enable them to recover. And SMEs are one of the largest groups of hirers of people. So this is all economic negative impact that is happening in our societies globally, and it can be changed immediately if we can help people as coaches, but also through our collaborations and our communication, the media that we own, helping people understand that they can act now. Intention, going back to the first slide, and leadership behavior. You can, through self-awareness, through understanding intention, change how you behave as a leader and bring in an immediate positivity and a positive cycle to strategies and the entire mind shift that works on a longer term impact rather than the short-term gain that has been the debt avoidance strategies that haven't worked. The learning revolution is just that, continuing with the learning revolution to monitor and build on more positive on positive. And finally, that belief in prosperity for all. We live in a world where the rich are getting richer, and there's more money created in the world, yet the poor are getting poorer. It doesn't make sense, and it shouldn't make sense. And we all, assuming all of us are in the middle bit of that, is about what can we do to bring in the belief that we can invest in our behaviors, in our products and services, and bring that positive behavior through education to the younger generations, so that they can, so they don't need to suffer, and they can believe in themselves and believe that they have their contribution and positive contribution to make to the community and society as well. And it brings us to the end of the content of our webinar today. Purposeful Innovators, it's purposefulinnovators.org if you'd like to go on there and see the kind of work that we're doing. We believe that through collaborating, through respecting human rights and ethical standards, a lot of this we've taken from coaching. We need that right now. We need to invent the way that we need to flip the model and invent the way we're doing things, because time is running out from a planet point of view, but we need to do it for the sake of our planet, communities and economy. So that is me for now. Brenda, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I've just put in the chat that we will be having a Q&A now, so we have 15 minutes for questions. But there is a question from Michael. But before we go on to that, I want to just make sure that everybody's happy before I stop the recording for the Q&A. Okay, right, just bear with me. I will stop the recording and then we'll take we'll take the very first question, which came from Michael, which just give me a second. I shall stop recording.